Well, the first one was so great, we thought we'd do a second one. Well, we always knew we were going to do a second one. And a third one, that's right. We're going to do faster this time around. It's caster critiques, where we go through and help other casters become better casters as by judging their works. But also trying to just do normal lessons, like have a practical example about how you can be better at commentating and how you can understand a commentator better. Our man we have is a Gorgon. Who is our first candidate, or our second candidate for the night. We already had Helium.
He is one of our editorial.
He is.
But he is also an amateur caster. Very enthusiastic guy.
Yes, I think enthusiastic is the best word that describes him.
He works as a pretty good co-caster as well as a regular caster.
Okay.
So.
Sorry, your microphone just made some interesting sounds the second you dropped it on the desk. I think you just turned yourself up on the little knob thing. Oh. That's better. Whatever you did. Just, yeah. Okay. We'll go with it. We'll go with it. Alright. So, okay, no. No, that's not right. What did you... Fine. Perfect. Wonderful. Right. Scratch everyone's ears out, but we're good to go. Alright, so we're doing Gorgon. We've got a game. HCT versus VG Gaming is his first one. Now you've already brought me through to 1 minute into this thing, and that's because you skipped the intro. If you want to start from the beginning, it's fine. But we got intro videos and stuff.
It's the whole intro, the ESL.
It was awesome. It was awesome. All right, yeah, we're good. We're good. Oh, that's what we have to do.
The intro is just so epic. Welcome back, everybody, to the ESL 1 New York 2014 qualifiers. These are the Chinese qualifiers, and now we've got Hyper Glory Team versus VC Gaming. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit because it is pretty notable for me here. All right, so turning down the game noise just a little bit. My name is Gorgon the Wonder Cow. You can catch me at GotCowDota on Twitter, here casting for Join Dota all the time, especially these early morning games. I'm now casting straight in about 4 a.m. my time and couldn't be happier doing it. Thanks for tuning in with me, guys, worldwide, whether or not.
I like the fact that he's picked a 4 a.m. broadcast. The poor bastard having to do it at 4 a.m. And this is the one he selects. But he went through the basic stuff. He said the names. He said the teams. He went through everything else that we talked about in the last episode. The excitement's there, but of course, you try and work out your technical difficulties beforehand because it really offsets the smoothness of the start of your broadcast. But hey, it's fine. Yeah,
this is your morning, your afternoon, or evening. We're happy to have you here. First game,
Truman Show quote,
with a Tidehunter, Razor, or Death Prophet tonight. Surprisingly,
it's amazing how easily you can work that into broadcasts.
They're also very popular for the bans. Actually, letting the Razor and the Tidehunter come out for Dire side. VC Gaming going to slide those through. They're going to get rid of the Bat Rider instead. Themselves grabbing that Death Prophet and the Skywrath Mage, presumably looking for something to combo up with that Skywrath Mage. The Faceless Void is not...
Okay. I hate to pick on him at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
But there's the video he put forward. Everything he said, he never backed up with fact. So he was just going through the motions. He was calling out Razor, he's calling out Tidehunter, he's calling out Death Prophet and Skywrath Mage, looking for someone to combo with the Skywrath Mage. There's no expansion to this, it's just a
Well, I think he's about to. He just mentioned Faceless Void's name.
Okay.
So banned out. As we've normally seen Faceless Void get banned when the Skywrath
so there we go. You're right. I jumped the gun a little bit too early.
Just the way of things, despite the fact that I've said this every cast so far today, and it's just something that a lot of people don't realize. At least the last time I checked the stats, which would have been last week, Faceless Void and Skywrath Mage both have a lower win rate with each other than they do on their own for 6.81.
This is actually something of his which is coming out right here. Because I know he likes picking through stats. He's a big buddy with Nahaz. And writes actually a lot of our stuff which has like detailed stats and picking through a lot of the stuff.
Right.
So it's great that he actually talks about that kind of stuff because that's the kind of backing which I was looking for when he said like Razor and Tidehunter. I was like, why is this important? But then you realize like a problem where he's 4 a.m. in the morning, he's been casting for a while, and he's casting the same stuff. It's the same draft over and over again, and it's hard to be unique.
Right. What kind of suggestions do you have when you're doing this sort of thing, right, where you feel like you're repeating yourself every single time, especially 6.81, right? We're seeing the same kind of heroes picked over and over and over again. So the first 4 heroes are really hard to do, right? So
I'm just going to double check, too. Can I hear Cap? So I'm not hearing him in my ears, which is...
In this, am I going off an XSplit?
No, I just don't know if they can hear him. Like, what's the chat saying? Is primarily because they would normally be saying, "Can we hear Cap?"
In this...
That's fine? Wonderful. Okay, I'm good.
In this scenario, where you are repeating yourself a lot with every single cast, like, oh, look, where you see the Razor Tidehunter, maybe you've discussed, like, the stats before, you don't want to repeat yourself again for people who are already tuning into the live stream and have heard that before.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people who are just now tuning in or, you know, or watching the VOD or that sort of thing.
It's difficult because you feel like you should say it, and you feel like if you just keep saying the same thing again, you are going to piss off the people which have already been there.
Right.
Now, he took one of the the avenues you can do, which is, I've been saying this a hell of a lot.
Right.
Or you start with, like, this is really, really consistent in most games. You basically say, this happens a lot, and then you can get away with saying it again. But I think it's okay if you repeat these things, primarily because if it's happening, you still want to comment about it, and you still want to say this is a repetitive thing. So it's okay to address it in such a manner. The only thing is you don't want to say it in a tone which is just like, well, this is having a fuck done. Ugh. Like you want to still create a tone of interest, but not a tone of hyper interest. And that's kind of one of the things which I think Gorgon struggles with because he's very...
He's very outgoing.
Yeah,
he's
very outgoing, very excited. Like, even when he's talking about something depressed, you think he's the happiest man in the world. Like, that's cool. He's a really cool guy to be around, but it kind of hurts you a little bit in your commentary. And he's got to find a way to kind of throttle that. We go back to what we were talking about with our previous stuff, which was the... would you believe? Well, we talked about previously... where we're talking about just the energy levels of a caster, and you got to try and find a balance to that. And you kind of got to balance your own personality with that. So it's going to be difficult for him to do.
You don't want to be too excitable and draw interest to something that maybe isn't that interesting, but at the same time...
You want to be true to the event.
Right, you don't want to be lacking energy.
Yeah, so if you want to talk about it, it's like, okay, we're looking at, again, Skyrush Mage, Faceless Void combination. Oh, joy. Because this game was also just before TI. So that was when it was starting to come in as well. We all remember that period of time, and we all wish to forget that period of time. He handles it fine. That's fine. I don't see a
take
problem.
that as you will. I don't necessarily know that the Faceless Void ban is necessary for Hyper Glory Team, but it is implied by
do we have a time mark
these teams
beyond this?
Yes, we do.
All right. Taking a look, and for anybody who did miss the VC Gaming,
if you want to skip ahead
today,
to
it was a
12 minutes and 37 seconds, you can get
Newbie.
past the draft.
VC Gaming is a bit of a different team than
start
they
breaking
were
down the lanes.
In the
Okay. Cool. We're at 12 minutes 39. We'll jump forward.
2-1-2 coming out of VG implies that they're going to try to go into the mid game very strong, but the early game is going to be pretty passive. You don't usually 2-1-2 if you're going to do heavy rotations. You don't usually 2-1-2 if you're going to end up trying to get early blood. If they manage to get a turnaround, that's great, but basically they're going to try to harass their opponents out of lane, take their superior advantage in terms of lane sustainability because they have more heroes.
He's ticking every box.
Evenly spread. They're going to have more sustainability on their off lane. Their sustainability in the bottom lane probably will not be too much punished, although Mirana is waiting in the secret shop for another Sacred Arrow. Black just happens to be positioned on the wrong side of this range.
I remember this game, actually.
He's waiting for it. As soon as this rain creep goes down, I assume that this is going to be the word go.
As at this point, I would say he should be zooming out with his camera.
Yeah. Did we have
he was actually...
Did we have zoom out by then? It happened shortly before TI4,
good point.
So it might not have been.
Very good point.
Yet.
Well, anyway,
if you have it,
if you have it now, you should be using it in this situation. His lane breakdown was perfect. He was explaining it, and he was actually giving timings. He was giving like this is what could happen with the lanes. This is like they're running this, and it will affect them because you don't normally do this when you want to do this. It was really nicely done of him. But yeah, in this situation with your camera work, it's probably the most important thing. Because before any fight, before any engagement happens, you want to be following the initiating ability.
Right.
In this case, it's the Sacred Arrow. It's the Mirana Arrow. So this flight path is important. You need to see where the target is, and you need to see where the hero is. Don't go out too far, because the second you go out too far, you start losing player names from the top of the heroes. And most people don't watch Dota while looking at ants. Like you need to stay in close, because you don't want to. Like when you bring the camera out, you lose a feeling of the game. You feel like, well, I'm just watching it. I'm watching a mini-map.
It's very analytical. You might as well be looking at circles and X's, right?
Yeah.
Moving through the map.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I really love the fact that he doesn't, as someone who likes to go into analysis when I do solo casts as well, it's easy to get lost on the theory and not pay attention to the current events.
Yes.
And so the fact that, he focuses, hey, look, this Mirana is going to be here, that's really important for you to be able to pull out if you're going to be able to provide in-depth analysis.
It is something, too, which we didn't flag, the fact that this is a solo cast.
Right.
This is not a dual cast. So we're not looking at like we were looking at with like Nahaz and Helium before, which is like how you bounce off somebody. You're actually doing a lot more work because you've got to fill both roles of the broadcast.
Yep.
So you basically become slightly schizophrenic. In order to do this, you're talking to yourself, and you know that too. Like you sit in a room and you're just talking to yourself the entire time. Physically, people would think you're insane. But as far as you go here, like it's just you come up with your own problems and you try and solve them out loud.
Right.
So you're just talking through your work basically. And so far he's done a brilliant job of that. So I got nothing against that.
Maneuvering. Bender and Ice in the top lane doing all right for themselves. Ice sitting on top of 6 last hits. Meanwhile, the Tidehunter sitting on 3. In the bottom lane, Sacred Arrow is going to go ahead and land on Black.
See, now that situation right there is the most unfortunate thing you could have happen.
Right.
You don't wait long enough for the arrow. You don't wait out for the time. Now, it's impossible for him to know that.
That's just bad luck.
Yeah, it really is. Like, when it comes to camera work, there is just an element of luck. The fact he's managed to pick it up at this point, at the same time the arrow connected, is good for him because he's at least watching the lane.
Might not be long enough. The slow going out, and Black is going to eat through the jungle. Very nice play. He's going to try to back out. However, Fi is caught on the wrong end of things. Isis, nice turnaround by Black. Icy will end up going down, and
bit of a stumble.
Bit of a stumble, and his recovery was incorrect. So, like, you first, like, he realized he first made a mistake when he said FY's in trouble. Because FY was actually the one who was doing the damage right then, and FY wasn't in any real jeopardy for that point. And Black knew if he got far enough away, he would just turn Frost Arrow because FY was forcing the hero to retreat anyway, because he was never going to get the first blood. So at that point, you had to realize that it wasn't a turnaround from Black, it was just Black turning around. So it's, if we listen to his wording again, just quickly.
It's a pretty long one. Might not be long enough. The slow going out, and Black is going to eat through the jungle. Very nice play. He's going to try to back out. However, Fi is caught on the wrong end of things. Isis, nice turnaround by Black. Icy will end up going down.
So FY caught on the wrong end of things because he thought the Pretty Hole was going to do a little bit more damage than he actually was. At that point, too, you realize that player praise can get in the way of doing play-by-play. Because he said, Black, that was a nice play cutting through the jungle. Technically, yes, it was. It was actually a nice play.
Yep.
But you take that time to say that when you could be discussing the heroes that's dropping low, or what Pretty Hole's still got potentially there, like where's the remaining damage going to come out from HGT to ensure this first kill. They're making a dive right now. Even a simple thing of like, is this really a good decision to make? How deep are they going to go? Will they get back out again? Like, we're back into that situation where it's a team fight, you've got a certain amount of time to say a certain amount of things. And in this case, it's 4 AM in the morning, so your brain's not going to be functioning perfectly. He handled it fairly well, but you need that auto-recovery, which isn't just, oh, he's going to turn around because now they're going to get the upper hand again. There's certain phrases which you should really just try and avoid because it says something is happening when, like, there's some generic saving. There's some generic saving you can go to.
When you're in a situation like this, where he has miscalled the action, and he is discussing maybe the wrong heroes or whatever, and he just kind of drops it, right?
Yeah.
And then he just kind of moves on to the next thing. Is that the better play? To
No.
just drop it and move on?
The second you just drop it and move on, if you do really, really fast during a team fight, like if you got a huge fight with massive things going on and you missay a name or you like mispronounce an ability or something like that, that kind of thing you can let slide.
You don't have
because
time to
because most of the time the viewer won't fully pick it up, and if they did pick it up, it'd be like, wait, what? Okay, don't matter. They're moving on already, and that's because the gameplay is moving on. But in a moment like this where you got 2 heroes are going to go back to the lane farming and Pretty Horse is going to retreat, you got nothing which would then distract the viewer to take away from what you actually did.
Right.
And most of the time, you never really want to do that anyway, because it's disrespecting your viewer to basically say, I'm sure they didn't hear that. I'll get away with it. It's fine. Like, sometimes that happens, and you can have a bit of a giggle about it afterwards. Just like, man, that was so stupid of me. I'm so happy I got away with that. But at the same time, you really should, I don't say own up for your mistakes, because doing so also drops the level of the cast and drops the level of respect that people will have for you. But a simple correction, a simple quick correction, like, you don't have to bring attention to it. You say, I'm really sorry, guys. Black wasn't actually in any danger. He didn't turn it around. He was just turning around. I meant to say it that way. If you say it that way, then you're just like, oh my god, like, I've just got to spill my guts here because I really feel like I haven't done this right for you. But just doing something really, really quick, like, in this situation, be like, I'm trying to think of a nice, quick way that you could get yourself out of this, but he got himself in pretty deep with the phrasing he actually said. But in this one, say, it looks like Black's alright, nice play through the trees, and now Pretty Horse going to escape. So I'd actually try and describe the situation more to get back out of it. So almost do like a redo, like a re-describe of what happened as a teamfight recap. That's one thing you can do as a solo caster anyway. You can go back and re-look at what happened while you wait. That'll probably be something I would do in this situation. But it's difficult. Not every situation has a way out. Alright. Do we have another?
Yep, we can bounce over to 18 minutes and 49 seconds.
18:49.
This will be a nice little skirmish.
All right, we're ready.
Yep.
There are no stuns available in this lane. Black throws out the silence. I'm not sure why. Pushback does not interrupt channeling, which is why Force Staff won't interrupt channeling either. Either way, they are not able to secure that kill, and Tidehunter just TP'd back.
Thank you for
tower,
explaining
so
why the pushback.
Experience range. That's a very nice move. It's a pretty common panic moment to just go back to the fountain and be like, I'm gonna wait here. Ooh, Super walked into the wrong part of town there. Speaking of very erratic, long, loud noises, Super is probably making one right now. He's gonna try to get away. A nice silence coming out of Fenrir. This rotation means this could be a turnaround. Big silence going out onto the Ember Spirit. Ember Spirit does not have a remnant to activate. He throws up the Flame Guard. He uses his wand as well. And that is a non-disjointable spell, that concussive shot. The question is, will they be able to get up close enough to him? The Flame Guard should protect him from that enough. Yep, he does not take enough damage. The Familiars are going to try to chase him down. They have a move speed of 380. He has a move speed of 360. He's going to pop his double damage, and he will go down to them. He really didn't have the mana in order to do anything. A nice play.
He actually didn't overhype, which is what I was expecting him to do at that point. First thing, smooth drag.
Oh, yeah.
Use smooth drag on your camera.
Yeah.
What you're seeing as he's... Hang on, let me just go back a little bit further than that.
Edge pan.
It's not edge pan. He's actually using cursor keys at this point. Because the edge pan, you would actually see... in fact, I believe the way he operates this... Unless that's actually a smooth drag. Because I'm not seeing his cursor. And because I'm not seeing his cursor, I think he's actually breaking one of the cardinal rules of casting. At least in Dota 2. Yeah. Okay, now, in XSplit, you have an ability to turn off your cursor. Now, the reason why I believe this is actually a really bad thing to do is primarily because when, like, we're talking before about keeping focus of a viewer, they need to know what you're looking at, where you're going. And their normal thing is, I'll follow a dot on a screen. And the cursor provides you with that. So if you want to highlight something, the cursor will normally come there. By instinct, you move a cursor around an object because that's what you're talking about. You'll do that naturally. Like if you want to flag an item, your cursor will come down and people go, oh, now I'm supposed to look at an item. If you just get a pop-up all of a sudden, you're just like, oh my god, like, what? Just where's it coming from? So you should normally use a cursor. The reason why we question mark it is because on smooth drag, when you hit the middle mouse button, your cursor disappears. Yeah. Now, that's meant for team fights. I actually requested from Valve to actually change some of that. So you can still cycle through heroes. You can still select different heroes while you're in smooth drag. So you don't have to keep on clicking in and out of it. Because what you kind of want is a smooth camera. Like the way most camera guys have been going around this is to use a hot fix version of Dota TV that works in real time. But I find that's a little bit too restrictive in the way you can move the camera. You're still missing things with this because it focuses more on the heroes and then tries to blend the two of them together. And you don't get what I was talking about before, which is like following that initiation arrow in or something like this. It doesn't seem to blend perfectly for me, which is why I never really recommend using this system. Yeah, but that's just one of those things where please use smooth drag. There was something else which I actually forgot at this point. But hopefully rewatching it's going to flag it back up for me again.
Loud noises. Super is probably making one right now. He's going to try to get away. A nice silence coming out of Fender. This rotation means this could be a turnaround. Big silence.
Turnaround is his word of the night. I don't know if you've noticed with a lot of casters, everyone has a certain phrase.
Oh, everyone has safety words. That's what I call them. Safety words.
Yeah. Like you do it with like fillers. So when there's a gap, or your brain is trying to take a moment until it knows what to say next. Like, there's only a few people out there which don't do this, and they're normally trained people that take time to plan what they say before they say it. AC is one of these people, because he's trained in this manner where you won't hear him do these kind of like safety net things which you can do, which gives your brain time to work out what you want to do. Like at the same time, like what I just said then, it's like is like one of the most used like buffer words you can have for your brain to get to the next point. Some
is another one.
Yeah, casters will use a lot. Not those two. They'll repeat the same phrase.
Yes.
They'll repeat the same phrase. If you actually listen to a lot of my early casting, I did it a hell of a lot. So if you go back, that was an awesome play. That was a really awesome play.
Epic,
or you like
awesome.
Slightly rework. Yeah, like these descriptive, exaggerating words. I mean, I hate I mean.
That's a big one.
Because there's some phrases too which don't fit. Like they don't fit when you say it. Well, I mean, it's like, well, I didn't mean this before, but I mean this now.
Oh, you start comboing. I mean, it's like in one sentence.
What I really meant was, so you were lying to me before. These are the kind of phrases, like, in a normal English language, in a normal conversation, you say it, it would flag warning bells everywhere. But because a broadcaster, sometimes like when people listen to a broadcaster, they don't listen to exactly what they're saying. Like everything kind of just blends out until they feel like a caster has made enough of a prominent point that they think this is something important that you should listen to. And that's a change in tone, that's a change in like a lot of different things with a caster, depending if they're on camera or not. So yeah, that's one of those things. So be careful of the safety words.
In order to fix that, I have a suggestion to fix that. I obviously went through that in my casting phase. You go back, if you listen to your own replays, you will notice those things right off the bat. Every caster is able to go through their own replays. I'm sure, Toby, if you went through
actually was my word. There was a video highlight made of a draft where I said actually 20 times within one draft because I just didn't know what to say. I wasn't ready for the draft and I was tired. And when you get tired, it gets worse.
Yes,
like,
very much so.
Try and sleep, try and rest before you broadcast. Don't do massive long streams. Like our 24-hour one right now. Because you'll start to say stupid stuff. That's why I'm actually a little bit concerned about doing... Like, I was probably able to construct my sentences a lot better during our first version of this, as opposed to now, because my brain kind of like chilled a little bit, or it's just getting tired, it's getting late or early, and things just don't order themselves properly. And a lot of casters just be like, you know what, I just wasn't feeling the magic today. Like, you probably would have heard a lot of people say, I just didn't get it right today. And the thing is, it's because your brain's not working right. You haven't given it enough rest time. You haven't given it time to just basically, like, detox itself out of Dota before you then re-inject back into it again. Obviously, you've got to keep yourself immersed in the scene, but you've got to keep yourself fresh at the same time. Back to don't oversaturation broadcast for casters, or else it just becomes generic, and people will be more than likely tuning in just for a couple of team fights and to watch the game, not to actually listen to what you say.
So if you go back through your replays, you'll notice a lot of mistakes, but repetitive word usage is going to be the one that really, really stands out for you.
It's hard to break as well.
It'll really get on your nerves if you listen to a really bad cast of that. You just have to endure it. You have to take it. For me, it was like a shock collar. when I had a phrase that I would repeatedly use and I would go back and listen to one of my casts and I would have that happen, I would just have this, like, I would actually cringe, physically cringe every single time I heard that word. I was just like, oh, God, oh, God. And then it got to a point where I heard it so much listening to my own casts, and, like, every single time it hurt me, I would then go in the next day to cast something, and if I said that word even once, I would go, okay, I got to keep my eye on that. Like, I would actually go, okay, I'm not saying that word again. Like, that hurt me saying that word right then, and it was the first time I've used it today. So, you know, you just have to go back. That's one of the things, you just go back through your replays, and it'll become very apparent to you very quickly.
Nah, I think there's something in the next 5 seconds which I was trying to catch before, which I forgot. I caught it before. I'm just like, I've forgotten what it was.
What's going on? Onto the Ember Spirit. Ember Spirit does not have a remnant to activate. He throws up the Flame Guard. He uses his wand as well. And that is a non-disjointable spell, that concussive shot. The question is, will they be able to get up close enough to him? The Flame Guard should protect him.
Oh, wait. Now I remember what it was.
Yep. He does.
And it was back just before that.
Into the wrong part of town there. Super walked into the wrong part of town there. Speaking of very erratic, long, loud noises, Super is probably making one right now. He's going to try to get away.
I'm not actually going to flame him for it. And I'm fairly certain by the look on your face, you already know what I'm going to say. Because this has actually been brought up by even the community. The community has actually flagged this one before. And what you do is you put words into the player's actions. This person's doing this person's saying this person's thinking this. It's so easy to do because in your mind you're trying to get inside of their shoes, and this is the reason why you do it. Because you're just like, I'm trying to think like the players so I can understand what they're doing. So Super must be thinking, oh shit, I'm going to die. And then your brain will just say that because that's kind of what your brain, your connection, and then mouth and words come out. And that's kind of the way it happens. The problem with doing such a thing is you can only do that when you know the players very well. And I'm talking personally. Because then you'll understand their personality and the reason why they make their decisions. You will, over time, learn inside the game what type of decision they would make. But it doesn't mean you understand their thought process. So everyone does this. Everyone does this. I do this. Cap does this. Everyone does this. Where you try and speak for the player because you're also trying to bring their individuality out.
Right. In a 5 versus 5 team game, you want to be able to give the personalities in the game a little bit of personality.
Yeah, you do. But the problem is,
you got to do it right.
You got to do it very, very right, and you got to do it correct because the second you say something wrong, that player can criticize you straight and saying that's not what I was thinking. Don't put words in my mouth. And you put yourself in a very vulnerable position as a commentator when you do such a thing. So you got to be careful when you do it. You can get away with just a couple here and there, and most players will not listen to what you say because they do not care. Like, most broadcasts don't ever go towards a level where a player is going to go, I really find this interesting. You know,
I'm pretty sure that's why when you get some players start flaming a caster, it's because they don't listen to a caster very often, and then they listen to one part, and then they're just like.
And then they make a judgment forever.
Right.
Yeah. It's also like fire whatever shots you wanted right now. A player asks casters not to judge what they do because we don't understand it. Right now, most casters don't actually even understand what they are doing. So how does a player then judge what a caster's doing? You can judge from a viewer perspective. You can do what Grant did and go out there and say, I watched this caster for this reason. Great. That's your personal opinion. But you can't go out there and go, this caster's shit when you've never actually commentated. Or it shouldn't come from you. It should come from people with experience in this area. And if you've talked to these people with experience, or you've learned about this, if you've done your research, then that's fine. But at the same time, be careful about who you criticize. And this goes both ways across the street.
In this case, he is kind of using it as a joke. But I feel like the joke kind of falls a bit flat because I feel like I think he's almost getting too clever with it, right? I'm not sure if 90% of the audience actually understands what. Well,
the entire situation when she was trying.
His descriptive use of basically having.
He's trying to do a short story.
He's screaming right now, right? But he gets a little clever with it. I'm not like. Do you think that in that case that's his personality, right? He's a clever guy.
Yeah.
Do you feel he should in some way dumb down what he says in that case, or do you think he just
I don't think you have
Just
to
do what
dumb. I don't
makes
think you
you
have to dumb down what you say. Like some commentators will actually ignore the action to tell a story. Now, the story when you're trying to say what Super is thinking, maybe not the greatest example in the world. Again, we can reference Stasis and Narcosis. These guys will ignore an entire team fight to talk about a certain train of thought they had. And it's like, what the fuck, guys? But you're laughing your ass off listening to them as they tell this story. What Gorgon's trying to do is paint a deeper picture. Like, he tried to tell a short story for a guy screaming. And
within the middle of an action.
Yeah. Like, you've still got Dire and Raiden here standing right next to each other. Maybe now's not the greatest time. You could go back and then tell a fairy tale story of, like, once upon a time Super was trying to get a rune on top. All of a sudden, the big bad wolf came down the hill. And then he was running for his life, screaming for the winds, and no mother came to save him. Like, you could tell a story like that, and you could make it an entertaining kind of, like, anecdote if you want to. But it's difficult to blend that kind of stuff into a team fight, and a lot of casters try and do it because they think, oh, it's going to be really unique. Like, we make a catchphrase, we make a copy-paste quote, which will always be there in the chat, or something like that. And when you try for that, it doesn't really work. At the same time, I don't think that's what Gorgon's done in this case. Gorgon has kind of gone down a different path here, where I think his brain actually works very similar to mine, where I got a story in my head, I just want to say it. This is how my brain is currently seeing the situation, so I'm going to paint the picture to explain what my brain sees right now, which is fine. But you can't expect that to work every single time, because not everyone wants to be inside your head. Right. Especially mine. It's very, very broken.
Nice silence coming out of Fenrir. This rotation means this could be a turnaround. Big silence going out onto the Ember Spirit.
Yeah, I think we picked all we need out of that one. Do you have a last jump?
I have another jump where he's talking about 6.81 comeback mechanics and how the games differ. That's a bit more of a mechanics talk. Do you want to go over that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, that's going to be at 21:27.
I'm not going to judge most of what he says, primarily because that's not my area of expertise. But how he says it, we can judge.
Okay.
Excuse me, an Earthshaker. And that's a pretty easy kill for him. Earthshaker's still not yet level 6. Didn't really have any opportunity to react to that. Mid tower is going to go ahead and drop to this Exorcism. And HGT are kind of rolling over here through the early game, giving a lot of advantage to the way of BG. But here's kind of an important difference between this game and last game for them. Last game, they gave a lot over a fair amount of advantage. They gave a lot over a fair amount of advantage to their opponents in terms of towers, but not a lot else, right? They still managed to keep themselves up in terms of the creep hits, and ooh, super. They still managed to keep themselves relatively close. Nice dodge on that arrow. The arrow just a little bit off. He miscalculated how long that stun from the Ember Spirit was going to last. Now the damage.
He's one of those positive guys.
Onto the Ember Spirit,
nice dodge on the arrow because that was a bad arrow.
Yeah. They had that dead to rights and just a great TP reaction coming out of the Visage, along with a really nice walk around.
I want to know if he can get back on track.
Exorcism will be up in 30 seconds, and they're going to go ahead and use this opportunity to try and move onto these towers. And the Familiars just add a little bit more to the push. He's going to whittle down all of his charges on the tower, then get all.
He's lost track of things now. He's taken too long to get back to his train of thought.
Right.
To his story that he started. Yeah. He has to restart again if he wants to try it.
Yeah.
He say, I was trying to say something earlier on, which was this. Would be the only way he can really come back.
With that stun, allowing the stun to be up in about 20 seconds here. Prepared for this fight as well off those Familiars. Really great window play coming out by this Visage.
What's that Ravage going to be?
And full reactions coming out of HGT, and VG is perfectly happy to just back out. No tower there, but no Exorcism was dropped on it. Everybody re-rotated. Fenrir free farming up here in the top lane, getting his levels caught back up.
I'm not hearing the mechanic change. It was the right time, Mark.
Remember, the Skywrath Mage is an extremely
he was getting into it, right?
Yeah.
And I think maybe he dropped it just because he probably thinks that he explained it enough. He basically was saying last game they were I think I kind of forgot what he was saying, but I think he was saying basically last game they were ahead in towers. This game ahead they're actually up in kills, which is a difference when it comes to the mechanic wise. I think maybe he feels like he explained it enough. And he's already kind of lost the last bit of conclusion, so...
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those, like, you've written like an essay for university or something like that, where your introduction says basically everything you're going to say in your paragraph.
Right.
And then your paragraphs fill in all the details for it, and then your conclusion summarizes everything which you mentioned in your paragraphs. Without the conclusion, I kind of feel like I didn't read the end of the page. So I never really cut it off. So I feel like I've listened to some of it, but I didn't hear it all.
Yeah.
And the introduction didn't really take most of it anyway, because like in Dota 2, like, you're never going to do an introduction like you would in an essay. Like you say, oh well, the reasons why it's changed in the meta. Who's ever going to speak like an essay? That's not entertainment at all. So no, you really have to have that conclusion to bind everything you said together and give people like a firm feeling like this is now everything I want to know, like, and I can move on. So yeah, he kind of missed out in that one. Maybe later in the broadcast he comes back to it, and that's okay. But for now, you kind of feel like unsatisfied.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that covers the VOD pretty well.
Okay.
Do you want to bring on Gorgon real quick?
Let's
He's been listening to us the whole entire time.
All right, I'm just gonna give him some audio right now. Hey Gorgon, what's happening, man? Hello.
Gorgon. Is he still on the call right there? Uh-oh.
Is he saying hello? Do we have the right input on again?
Gorgon. That would be weird if it changed.
Yeah, it shouldn't change during.
What? Yeah, DX. Yeah, it should be the right one. Gorgon. Maybe he had to go.
Maybe he did.
All right. Well, if he's got questions, he can always call us back. Do you want to jump into the next one?
Yeah,
Real quick?
Let's see what we got. So if he says hello, we can stop halfway through the next one anyway. Okay, so you've already got the VOD lined up, or you nope?
Fortunately, no.
Can you link me the VOD?
Hello. Am I
Hi,
coming
Gorgon.
at the right time? I've got you on 2 audios right now, so I'm trying to mute everything up. Okay, I think I've got you now.
Hang on. How am I hearing him? Yeah, but it shouldn't happen because I had Skype turned off. What computer are we hearing him through?
I'm just cupping my hands and yelling really loud from the States. It's just making it there.
That's impressive, dude. Holy cow.
Is he on the caster PC? The Carcaster PC? Did you call him through that? No, he's on that one. Okay, cool. All right, whatever. Hi, Gorgon. What's
Hello,
up, man?
It's nice to be here. Thanks for the feedback. It's actually very helpful, and it's a resource that none of us really have a whole lot of. And I think it's really good for both people at my level and people who are looking at it, thinking about getting into casting. So,
Cool. Happy to do it, man. Happy to do it.
excuse me.
Hopefully, so
yeah.
did you have any questions about some of the points I brought up, or?
Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to ask about was the cursor. So I use mouse 3 to smooth drag. That's the way I do it. I know a lot of people end up doing a variety of other things as well. That's sort of the way that I've gotten comfortable. And my preference has always been to remove the cursor in the XSplit and draw on the map. When I want to draw attention to something, I use the map draw mechanic. Now, do you think that that's too distracting for viewers? Do you think that I should really keep the cursor on regardless?
Oh, yeah. Initially, I was actually with your logic where I was like, man, that cursor shouldn't be there, because I don't see why I should block any part of the screen if I don't have to, for the viewer. And you're right, like the drawing tool is what allows you to highlight it, so you can bring attention to that. The only reason why I say you should use the cursor tool is primarily because that's what most people who play the game are used to seeing. And their eye will normally move across. Is he? Like
I've turned my mic down on my preamp, so
I just turned him down on this one too.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll equalize back out to about the middle. Hopefully, that's good.
Great. Yeah. So where were we? Lost train of thought.
Cursor. You were originally on my.
Yeah. It's just because what people normally look at, and like their eyes will follow their cursor as well. So it doesn't work the same as like a keyboard where you just know it by touch type.
Right.
So it's just to make something a little bit more familiar for people to follow.
Hello, ladies.
Sorry about that, guys. I just wanted to get the VODs to start loading. So
cool.
Hopefully
yeah. So it's just one of those things where I'd say I prefer to have the cursor there after looking at it from a viewer perspective. That I think is just more comfortable. to see the cursor. I think Cap's got a point on this one, too.
The one thing that you really pointed out that I wasn't sure if I agreed with you, and then you said the instance where you go down and you look at an item.
Yeah.
Or you hover over an item and it pops up, right? I've had that experience before where I'm watching a cast and all of a sudden, like, the box just shows up, and it's just kind of like disjointing. When you have the cursor there, it's very natural to go, oh, he's going to go look at that item. Oh, there's the thing that he wanted to look at, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, like, that's one thing that really having a cursor makes a lot of sense.
I know we also talked about this as an extension, is when you show up things like the golden experience graphs and any other major boxes, you need to give people, like, because they're ones you don't have a choice with. Like, you don't want to be dragging the cursor up to the top corner to display it there, because it's a waste of time and people feel like even their eyes have taken a mammoth walk from one side of the screen to the other. You don't want to do that. You want to keep people refreshed. So you use your hotkeys for that kind of stuff. But it's you have to, when you bring a box up, when you bring anything up, you need to give people time to adjust. With the cursor there, people have a little bit more time to adjust because they can see it coming. Like they know what's going to happen because the cursor is moving towards it. They can anticipate what's going to happen, and it doesn't scare the shit out of them. And it's the same kind of thing with the golden experience graphs. This thing's going to pop up, and you can warn them by saying something like experience or gold, and that's a nice warning. But one thing, and I'm going to just reiterate this right now for anyone that watches someone flame the living shit out of them until they change what they do. I know, shouldn't promote that. But if someone brings up a graph and puts it down instantly after because they saw the information they were searching for, but they didn't let the viewer look at it and get a time to adjust their eyes, look at the details, and then go from there.
Ignore us. I'm just...
Yeah, what the hell are you doing?
Dirk, get on my Skype. I'm sending you a message.
What the hell?
Go on your rant.
Oh, what the hell? Yeah, so flame the living crap out of someone that doesn't show golden experience graphs for extended periods of time. You have to think about your viewer. Your viewer's not keeping up with your thought process. They don't know that you're going to look at the gold next. They're not going to know you're going to look at this next. You have to give them time to adjust to it. So if you do want to play with no cursor, I suggest you hover your box or whatever you highlight a lot longer than anyone else would.
Okay,
but still,
that's really good to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's what I was to say. For reference purposes, for people who are used to something, don't take them out of their comfort zone. They'll hate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question I had, I picked this replay.
That was the other thing. That was the other thing. You can't draw on pauses. So if you want to be able to show something during pauses,
yeah, you can't.
Well, you can create the box still, right?
You can do the green box, but unfortunately, with the way that most capture cards, or even just the way XSplit reads it, it'll only take 2 of the sides at a time most of the time. You'll never get a proper box because it's just this weird green.
The pause is always clunky when you don't use the cursor. That is very, very, very true.
It's like you also can't highlight any of the side tabs. I guess you can't draw onto like the CS. So the quick stats menu.
Yeah.
You can't highlight something like that. Circling the mouse around an item is actually better than bringing up the box with the descriptive stuff, because most of the time your overlays are actually going to interfere with that. Like if someone builds you a full HUD for the bottom and then you like bring up a box, another small thing to try and avoid is to make your overlays as minimalistic as possible, with a lot of transparent area and never really interfering with like those pop out areas. Right. Yeah. So
any other questions, man?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, I picked a solo VOD because I figured you guys weren't going to get very many from other casters, and I thought that would be a good exercise in general. But in particular, I'm curious what you guys have to say about, especially at this level of casting, where people have gotten enough footwork that they're getting work, but not enough footwork that they're out of the amateur league. Like, I do a lot of casting I'll cast with 3 different casters in a 6-hour time slot, and I don't necessarily know all of them. And I know you guys deal with that a lot more these days than you used to as well. Do you have any advice as to how to incorporate casters or work with casters that you don't really feel synergy with, but you're already live on?
So this is something whenever you're working with a pro player, somebody who's not experienced with being able to do their simple tricks, to be able to...
Are we actually talking about a pro player, or are we talking about like a caster?
Pro player, other caster, maybe. I usually work with other casters rather than pro players, but I have worked with pro players and had similar experiences, so...
Yeah, okay. I mean, like a lot of the amateur casters, right, still don't have a good feel of back and forth and the flow that happens in a conversation. So that's why I'm kind of like saying pro players. Like I still use these techniques when it comes to working with a pro player that I haven't had. There's certain like we were talking about it earlier, saying somebody's name at the end of a conversation and even asking them a question in order to get them to perk up and quickly respond to you instead of just having that bit of awkward silence and he's like, oh, now it's my turn to talk, right?
Yeah. The problem is, like, as we also mentioned with that kind of like approach, you lessen your broadcast by doing so, because you segment your broadcast into you talk, I talk, you talk, I talk, and they're the worst type of broadcast. It's we talk together is what you should always aim for, and this is the kind of stuff which like you just got to get to know the people beforehand and try not to ever get yourself into a position. I know you and I actually both prefer to solo cast than cast with someone we have no idea about.
Yeah.
Like, the only times where we would probably be comfortable with not doing that is the reason why I asked, is it a pro gamer or is it a caster? Because if it's a pro gamer and you know you can get a lot of respect out of what they say, then you turn it more into an interview if they're feeling uncomfortable. So you ask the questions that would spark something they would want to say. And hopefully they'll feel then comfortable enough they would keep talking about things.
Right.
So this would be a better way to approach it like that. But with a caster, it's very different because you may have little to no respect. Like the viewer has to respect what you say, but you also have to respect your co-caster. Like they have to bring something to the table that you want to have, and you give them space to have.
Right.
You don't just cast with someone for the sake of like, oh, well, at least I don't have to talk now. Like, you don't do that. Right. If you start doing that, then you lessen everything you do.
So going back to the whole, right, you're right. When you have the whole questions, it makes it very back and forth. I think what I've found to help lessen that, the problem is you're just going to have to really pay attention to your co-caster.
Yes.
And listen to what they say a lot. And in order to kind of lessen the back and forth, they probably won't get the hang of it, of being able to like make the conversation flow. But you can kind of like, when they say something interesting, you just quickly build on that. You're like, right. So when this happens, you go on to that. It makes it feel a little bit more natural, a little bit more fluid than the back and forth. But also but you also have to keep track of what they say and maybe try and spin it sometimes. So when they say something that's kind of wrong, you can go, well, it's not quite like that, but I get what you're saying where it's going to be leading into this, right? You just kind of have to really listen to your co-caster and try and basically pick up on whatever mistakes or whatever good things that they say and roll with it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sweet. I guess the one last thing that I wanted to ask is, so this is, once again, this is I think my fourth game of the night, 4 a.m., kind of difficult. I think this was the second or third night in a row that I was doing that.
Why did you choose that game, by the way?
I was in a hurry and I was looking through VODs, and this was the first solo cast that I came across. So I figured I'd bring it in. And also I figured 4 a.m. I'd probably make some mistakes, which means that it would be good for critique, right?
That's good. That's true.
So I figured, throw it. Why put your best foot forward when you can put a mediocre foot forward and get a lot more feedback? So,
that's true. Normally the worst, the
worst feedback you can hear is, oh, you did that perfectly.
Yeah, so, and I figure I already have both of you guys giving me casting jobs once in a while, so hopefully I've already impressed you enough that I'm throwing one bad VOD your way wouldn't necessarily get me taken off the Skype.
You're ruined, right, Gorgon. We'll never work with you again.
But in terms of
we haven't
casting
paid him yet,
late,
right,
casting overnight,
we can take that money back, can't we?
I've been storing it up for a special occasion.
I'll write the check out.
I'm sure we haven't processed his invoice.
But yeah, in terms of doing the late night casts, doing the long casts, are there any specific techniques that either of you guys use? Especially Toby, I know that you used to cast back in the day where you did the long lands by yourself, shouting all the time. Are there specific techniques that you would use in order to preserve your voice or preserve your mental fatigue?
Or
do you just go until you can't go anymore?
Do you want me to answer? Because I've got some answers.
How I dealt with this was not the best way to deal with this. How I dealt with this was basically let my brain do whatever the fuck it wanted to. Now,
that's where we get the very eccentric Toby come out.
Yes, that's when you get those things where it's verbal diarrhea. It's the best way.
He just opens his mouth and the words flow through.
Right, there was actually a broadcast I did, and this is like at 4 a.m. Australian time, and I had a horrible day, and I knew I was awake in a few hours' time as well, and I fell asleep during the cast.
I've done that too. My first LAN, I did that. Yeah.
But what happened was
I fell asleep while casting.
I fell asleep, but I kept talking.
Same exact experience here. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So the brain goes completely on autopilot. The hilarious thing was it was video casting. It wasn't even just audio casting. Audio casting. Oh my god, you probably could have got away with it. Like, freaking, I've cast naked audio casting and no one's freaking known. Like, I've done very weird things with audio casting and no one's ever known it. But with video casting, like, your camera work, people will notice it. And, yeah, for some reason, like, everything went to autopilot and it still worked and no one knew. No one recognized that I was asleep, and I was basically sleep casting. I always and that was I was like, okay, I realize autopilot can get me through a hell of a lot of things, but at the same time, you're gonna be spewing shit. The best thing you can do is just try and wake yourself up as much as you can during the broadcast and find something that's interesting to you. Because if you just cast the same stuff and you have the same approach, then it's not going to change. You're going to get tired. Like, it's that sitting in front of a fireplace and you don't really hear, like, fuck, damn it, I've hit this damn thing.
Toby's messing with it.
I'm sorry, this connection cable is not working the way I want it to. There we go, now it's working. Yeah, but you have to keep yourself interested and awake, or else your viewers are going to fall asleep as well. So you just find anything that gives you energy. And I'm not just talking energy drinks. Because normally they'll just send you a little bit more over the edge.
Yeah, you don't want to be taking too much caffeine in order to keep yourself awake. There are certain techniques that I learned doing a lot of sleep deprivation, like military stuff, and I did this a lot during the TI4 qualifiers. In between games, if you're in a position to do so, scream. I'm not kidding.
Really?
Screaming actually works incredibly well for keeping yourself awake.
Maybe that's how I got through the early broadcasts.
It jumpstarts your body's adrenaline system. Basically, your body's recognized something's wrong, right? And you just like let it all out. Let all the sleepiness, let all the anger out. Just and if you can, do some exercise between games.
Waka does that when he does his 24-hour streams. He drinks nothing but water and
drink a lot of water.
Every time he's about to fall asleep, he does physical exercise.
If you have to pee, you will not fall asleep. All right? That is something. You drink enough, going through boot camp, you drink enough goddamn water, you cannot fall asleep when your bladder is completely bursting to full.
The thing which is on the wall over there. Are you able to grab that for me?
Oh, yeah, the white little...
When I first came to Germany and I first started casting here, they couldn't understand how I was in the room so much. Yeah.
It's fine.
It hasn't been used.
It's never been used. At least that's what Toby keeps telling me.
But this was the joke that went around the office. The fact that I never left the studio. I lived in the studio. So I should have been. Yes, you can bring it in. Stop being such a pansy. So this was something I got given 2.5 years ago. And it's a pee bottle. It's a bowl you pee into, as now demonstrated by Capitalist. And then you put it back in the holder. And you put it back on the wall. This was something which was the initial joke, because I never came out to pee. I never realized I needed to pee. And then I'd be like, end of a broadcast, I'm like, holy shit, I need to pee. And they just run out. It's like, fuck.
You're doing it right if you have to pee after every cast. When you're tired like that, if you drink enough water where you're like, every cast, you're like, oh man, I got to
just be careful on LAN events. Be very, very
there's no bathroom everywhere.
On LAN events. Oh my god. If you ever see me at a LAN event, the first thing I look for is a toilet.
Where's the bathroom? How close is the bathroom to the casting desk?
So I did that with TI4. I'm like, okay, how fast, if I run, how fast can I make it to the toilet? You always check it out in paces. Best advice I can give you for LAN events, know where the toilet is. And make sure it's not a public one. Oh, it's the LAN events. That's just disgusting. especially if you're then in a rush and some stupid bastard is like just taking up like 3 fucking cubicles with his body, and you're just like, I don't want to go near that. I need to pee, but maybe I can pee from one side of the room to the other.
All right, man. Well, I think that wraps it up.
It does.
Gorgon, I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. Thank you very much once again for bringing me on, guys.
All right, guys, you can follow him at GotCowDota on Twitter.
Yep.
And we're now going to be moving on.
Do we want to go straight into the next one? Do we want to have
Do you want to take a short break? I thought we'd just combo it up.
Let's combo it up.
All right.
One though combo.
All right. So the next thing we're going to be getting into is going to be the Pixel Crew. It's the PixelPipeline studio. That's kind of the branding that they gave themselves. It's OD as well as Wakey. It's the 2 that we're going to be listening to. I don't have any specific timestamps.
It's fine.
But I know you've already listened.
Yeah,
to
I actually listened to a little bit of this one because I remember you put this one forward as an option.
Yep.
Of what we can cast, and I kind of have heard these guys before, so I've already got a couple of preconceived ideas about them. The first thing I find interesting is the fact that they name themselves together. I hope they can go solo at some point if that's what happens, because the chance of like people keeping their dedication throughout all is normally quite low. Like, someone's going to have a problem, someone doesn't want to go the whole way, only one person has talent and then gets picked up by a studio. What happens to the other? Are they always going to be a pair? Keep this in mind, this is primarily just for finding work. But yeah, it's nice to see that they, like, if we actually bring up the screen right now, this is their studio. Now, I've seen some dodgy studios. I've created a lot of dodgy studios. This one actually isn't that bad. Primarily because they've actually gone at least one part of the way and put a banner in the background.
Yep.
So they're putting the ESL community broadcast background. Now, it's a simple thing when you do this and you're realizing just how they're doing this. And I can tell this because I've been in this situation before. They're in a corner of a room, and I'm fairly certain all the computers and all the gear they have is surrounding them on every single corner, and the only space they have is 1 meter from the table to the wall. And then they're going to put this background banner thing in, which will actually take up at roughly about 20 centimeters behind, because it has the real area as well as the stick that comes up that actually hangs a banner like this.
Right.
And the waves you see in the background is because their chairs have hit it or they haven't put up the banner properly.
Right.
At the same time, those banners are a pain in the ass. They never really properly sit.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where as a background, it's a cheap little thing that they probably could have had created. At the same time, there are actually cheaper alternatives as well for things that you can create for this. And normally you want to try and make sure your background goes the whole way, but you can see it's the corner of the room they're in. Like, he's literally into the corner because you can see the shadow which comes out from on the left-hand side. So they're just trying to make the most out of the space. I at least give them points for effort. But there's just a couple of things you can do that make it look more professional. Primarily, if you have a background, make sure it's flat. Do whatever you have to do. Strap it with wood across the back so you can never close that thing down again. But make it as flat as possible. You're also looking at a height difference with cameras. Now, I know I'm picking on them a lot for this one, but it's because we actually haven't had a video caster yet, so I'm just bringing up a lot of these points right now. So you got a height difference between the two. Now, I don't know if this is actually a natural height or if it's just the way the chairs sit, because the chairs are actually different chairs as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's chairs.
Yeah, so this is one of those things, like you look at like what's happening with me and Cap right now. Like, I'm sitting down, he's up tall. Now, this actually isn't the greatest thing we could do.
No.
And we're doing this because
obviously a bit casual.
It's a 24-hour live stream.
If I feel like standing, I'm going to stand.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've been actually moving between like 3 different positions. Like one is this, one is this, and the other one is this. Yeah. These are the 3 positions I've been moving towards because we were just here for so long. But when you set up a studio, like with our new studio, we're all about standing up because standing up looks a lot more professional. And even when you sit down, push your body up. I'm not going to say like puff up your freaking chest. It's just have good posture, because if you're sitting there doing this, or if you're just like, oh my god, like who's going to give a shit about what you say?
Right.
Because you don't obviously look like you care. So with these guys, if we actually go back to the screen right now, that's OD Pixel on the right, correct? So OD Pixel looks like he's actually interested. He's looking at the camera, even though his left eye is giving me the wink. But he's at least trying to communicate directly. And then you got Wakey Pixel, who is... And it's just in this freeze frame. Like, it might get different in a moment. But he's looking over at the production screen.
Yeah.
So it's an obvious thing he's doing. He's moved his head away from the microphone, so he doesn't want to talk. He's just looking to production. And this is kind of like when Odie just goes off by himself. So this is one of those things where you want to try and engage directly through the camera. You look at the camera because they're the people you're talking to. And the only time it's okay to kind of look at something else is if you're actually looking at something which people expect you to be looking at. Like if you're looking at the screen because I'm looking at the game, or in this case I'm looking at the video, then looking in this direction is quite okay. If someone knows you're actually taking care of the production as like doing the one-man studio kind of thing, that's also okay. But in this situation, it's kind of weird because with all the monitors and the mic stands kind of being closer on his side, actually, it's not even the monitor. It's the way that this overlay is done.
Yeah.
That it looks like it's a monitor. No,
the gap.
Yeah, it looks like there's actually now a monitor, just the way his overlay is positioned.
Yeah.
Which is actually really upsetting now because I've just realized that. So now I don't even know if he's looking at a production screen, if he's looking at something else. So just a small little thing. But let's
just remember that looking into the eye of the camera is how you include the audience. Right? The audience will feel like they're not a part of the show.
Yeah.
Unless you look directly at them. And that's just a simple imagining you have to look into
I'm guessing you two boys are off. Did you at least want to come and like wave at the camera?
You came in and just didn't even...
It's because we're taking too long. Alright, we have...
We played Pictionary for like a year.
Yeah, they were late. We were actually on time. We played Pictionary when these guys want to come and play Pictionary. But we have... like, you don't have to take your jacket off and everything else. You could just say hello unless you're worried what people look like in your winter wear. Like, Harley's at least got style in his winter wear, because he wears a jacket like very similar to Caps.
Don't worry, man. We don't have
you look like an old man when you walk around like that. Yeah, you can just like switch the camera over and okay. So we got Harney. He just lives around the corner.
look how short he makes me look.
They're both standing by the way. Actually, he's not even standing properly.
Well, he's also wearing shoes. I don't have shoes on right now.
I'm sorry. Do I now need to do this?
Get out of here. Sorry.
I'm standing in the back. Not really, because I'm closer towards the camera. I'm purposely moving forward.
The only reason I look somewhat as tall as Hani is because I'm farther forward.
But nice to have you here in Berlin, Hani.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
You're kind of like Cap. I'm not sure about this. It's gonna go off? No. You look like me. You can't grow a beard properly.
Nice.
It's too thin and patchy. Hey,
we were doing Pictionary for a while. I was ready to go.
I'm sorry, we're having too much fun doing Pictionary, and we're doing this stuff for OD Pixel and Wacky Pixel. So, Wakey. Sorry. Sorry.
sorry, Wakey. Your name is now changed. You're now Wacky Pixel.
Perfect.
So, yes, we have another.
Please don't remind us.
Thank you. 11.5 hours to go. Thank you, Hani, for reminding us.
Yeah, beautiful.
Halfway through the stream.
Thanks, Hani.
Right.
Thank you, Hani.
See you, man.
Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, Hani. Yeah. Hani.
It's good seeing you, man.
Yeah, I guess I accepted this award. Go.
All right.
He's got the Golden Globes.
Let's play the video.
I hope people saw that clip.
Toby's already going off on so many tangents, but now we just had like...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's OD Pixel. I'm here with my good mate and co-caster, Wakey Pixel. How you doing, Wakey?
I am doing good.
And we decided we're going to cast a little bit of Dota. We've decided to pick a game that we both caught a little bit of when it first originally happened, but of course it was written up pretty nicely on the old Reddit. People were saying that this is a game that's one of the best so far, coming out from the qualifiers, which is saying something because there's been a hell of a lot of games in these qualifiers, haven't there?
There's been a hell of a lot of games.
16 matches, I believe, for each team or something. It's something like that. It's a huge stage of games that are going on. So we have picked Na'Vi versus PR.
Yeah, which I think we were both going to watch anyway, so it makes sense then just to go ahead and cast it. Why not? Why not? Bit of
okay. I apologize. This may be a little bit negative. Do you guys want to cast this game? Because right now I'm not feeling it. It's like, you gonna watch a replay? I was gonna watch a replay. Let's watch a replay together. Sound good? Oh, sounds fantastic. Sure. I'm not feeling the desire to broadcast. And you pick up a game like, okay, this could happen if you're doing a low-ranked game out of like possibly the lowest UK English Cup you could think of, like the worst teams, and with a guy which maybe slept with your sister and you hate him for it. Like, that's the kind of feeling I'm getting right now from this kind of broadcast. But if you get someone like Power Rangers versus Na'Vi, and you're specifically selecting this game because, also another bit of pet peeve of mine, people, like, it's a gross generalization. Gross generalizations that, like, people have said this game is good. It was massively upvoted over on Reddit, and it's got rave reviews from everyone inside the comments. Like, at least then you're giving it context or something like that.
Give it some clarification.
Yeah,
about who's
sorry,
people.
tangent, yes. So yeah,
Okay.
basically what I'm trying to say is actually want to cast it and make the people who are watching it feel like you want to cast it, because then they want to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Primary thing from this. Let's go in.
So that's what we're going to do.
Let's get ourselves in. You can already see it already, but we're going to do a nice little transition straight into the draft. There we go. Look at that beautiful draft screen. So far, Power Rangers, they've picked up the puck as the first pick. Now, that's something that we don't always see, or at least in this current patch. I mean, back in the day maybe, but puck as first pick material, surely that leaves you a little bit vulnerable. Obviously, puck can be put in the offlane as well as the mid, and to be fair, I'd say I've seen him more in the offlane recently than...
He moved on to a different topic. Puck is going to leave you vulnerable. And then you start talking about his laning phase. Explain what you talk about. All the time. Always explain why you say something.
You've got more than enough time in a draft to break things down. It's not like there's any pressure for you to keep moving and keep going on. You can talk about, okay, why is puck making you vulnerable?
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Let's actually skip forward a little bit. So we'll get ourselves out. Do we actually have a time mark for this guy? No, we don't.
No, just skip
so we'll just skip ourselves ahead. Random point, 1 minute into the game.
Of course, this Magnus with the shockwave at his capabilities, and of course, Dendy at the moment is winning the lane. 5 last hits, and the puck's only managed to pick up 1 from the first couple of waves, so definitely going in favour of Na'Vi, that lane. And as you said, it's quite, a unique tri-lane to say.
First issue. Not even listening to him. What's the problem on the screen? No, that's actually not my first problem. My first problem, because your microphone's not turned on, so you couldn't actually say anything, right? Here you go, Durka.
Durka said that he wasn't clicking on heroes.
Yeah.
There we go.
No, actually bring it back to the game screen. What's my first problem?
I actually don't see it.
You don't see it?
I'll be honest.
Look at the overlay.
Oh. Yeah, PixelPipeline is right on top of the last hits. Nice. I didn't even notice PixelPipeline.
This is one of those things which just piss people off. Now, we did this so bad because we didn't do the overlays for the last season of D2CL, but it was covering up the bottom left-hand corner, so you actually couldn't read the stats and the details in the bottom left-hand corner of the page. Now, this really, in overlays, is not acceptable. Moving into the left, I can semi understand for a lot of other games, because on the right, and a lot of people may not actually know this, but if you ever do like a YouTube video, if you ever stream something on Twitch, MLG, Dailymotion, they always put their watermarks in the top right-hand corner. So any information you actually put up in the top right-hand corner is normally covered again. Even our videos, like when we put videos over on Join Dota, and you watch them on our YouTube channel, you'll have the little Join Dota logo sitting up in the top right-hand corner the entire time, which if you click on it, takes you to our channel. This is on every video on our YouTube channel. So technically, the space you have up in the top right-hand corner of the screen is useless space, because it's always covered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Alright, yeah, clicking on heroes is an important thing. A very, very important thing as well. So Dirk is right about that.
Top lane, J4 trying to be a little bit aggressive onto Funnick.
Okay, now we get ourselves a click. That's okay.
He went for the anchor smash in the end. So now
sometimes
that
stuff just kind of happens.
Yeah, J4 realizes this and he's just going to try and kite him a little bit. Try and push for
not to that level.
Flank, still not hit.
You were in a lane for about 5 seconds, and this is in the early stages of the game as well. Like, if there was items coming out, you want to be checking. You want to make sure you're checking CS anyway, but you want to be looking at new and fresh items which are coming out. It's like when players don't click on enemy players. Like, I don't do that. I'm really bad at that kind of stuff. But when spectating, I always do it. So it's just one of those things where you got to just systematically start checking players, because people who are watching the screen as well want to know. Right. Even if you're 1.5 minutes in, you'll have an irrational sense as a viewer that something has changed on this hero. So unless you click them, you don't know it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to know it because, like, Dota doesn't work like Heroes of New Earth does, or games like League of Legends, where they have all 5 heroes listed on the side. They show their abilities, what they've actually leveled up, what's on cooldown. Like, Hon has so much information, it's too much. And they have the current gold. They have, like, buyback timers or whatever. I don't know. They have crap tons of information. Every time there's a new item actually purchased, there's a animation coming in from the side. I'm like, spam. But in Dota, you have to work harder as an observer. So you have to click on the heroes. So I can see Cheshire Cat and go, okay, he's level 2 now. He should have time walk. He might have backtrack, or did he go for time lock and backtrack? Like, did he even feel like time walk was a necessary thing for him as an offlane void? Like, this is the kind of information which people don't get because you don't click it. Yeah. I'm not making a proper metagame point because that's not my thing.
But you just make it a habit of constantly, whenever you go to a new screen, click. Even if you're not actually looking at the hero, and this is just something that you should be looking at the hero, but first make it the habit of constantly clicking. Click a hero, click a hero, click a hero, click a hero. Yeah. Because even if you aren't looking at the items and picking up that information, people who are watching you are looking for that, because they're not the ones. They don't have to focus on commentating, right? They can just focus on whatever you put on the screen. So if you click on a hero, they can see the items that are have. They can see that skill build, even if you don't see it and you aren't able to talk about it at all. Just constantly make it a habit of just constantly clicking from hero to hero.
Alright, let's actually listen to some of the commentary now.
So they're doing a decent job of that. And meanwhile, on the mid lane, Dendy, has he got his bottle on the way? It looks like he has.
It done, yeah.
Yes, he does. So he's going to be able to regen up and sustain himself in the mid lane against Shachlo. Shachlo as well, of course. Obviously, if he orbs in to go aggressive against Dendy, then he needs to be careful of the skewer. Could get skewered back into the tower, and that could put him in an extremely precarious position. So something that may work a little bit against the puck this game, but we'll have to obviously see how Dendy decides to run this one.
I'm kind of okay with theorizing. So you're going to skewer the puck back. That could be a problem for him. I would want to go the next step and say, how would that situation ever arise?
Right.
RP and Blink Dagger is kind of like the only things, or a mistake from puck, is the only things that would make
having
that
the
situation
Ogre Giant make a rotation, make those kind of calls if you're going to back yourself up with evidence if you're going to say something.
And he almost said another one of my squeamish lines. We'll just have to see what happens.
Okay.
That's one of those things where it's just like, we'll just have to wait and see. It's all up to chance. Maybe you'll be an ace. Maybe it won't be an ace. Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be all about whether the puck gets caught out. You know, if he uses the illusory orb aggressively, he's got to be very careful for the good 10 seconds or so before it comes back.
There we go.
Off cooldown.
Nice.
And, Na'Vi,
a little bit delayed, but he actually
he's dewarded the initially placed down by the Witch Doctor, so he's going to be able to get this ancient stat going pretty healthily.
Yeah, and he's got an Invis rune now as well, so that's going to help him just sit in the lane and sap some experience, find his level 2, possibly find his level 3 as well, which is going to be really, really nice for Phoenix. So nice room for him to be able to pick up. And meanwhile on the bottom lane, this Faceless Void.
You actually say, well, he's got Invis rune, he could just sit there and sap up the experience. The Anchor Smash is like, yeah, damn it.
Casters.
You're probably even sitting there for like 10 seconds just soaking up the experience, and then you get up there and you say it's like, oh, instantly I'm proved wrong, even though technically I was, okay, breaking the table. Right. Little Golden Doomling has now fallen over.
Also, I love the dragon's
find a little bit as well. He's already level.
I love the dragon's
the black dragon thing.
that's been there for the last 20 seconds, so obviously that goes over a point we already talked about.
It's like Goofy. Goofy basically mated with a dragon, and this was his offspring. Oh, that's just disgusting.
3, and it looks like he's just playing Ring Around the Roses with Gold Black at the moment.
So English.
Absolutely. Just giving each other a bash. Ogre Magi being very tanky, so you can withstand this kind of aggression and avoid a fairly squishy hero. Has just got the 1 point in the backtrack. at the moment, just gone for a point in each of his skills. And meanwhile, in the mid lane, Puck's managing to catch up. 10 against the 13, has got the bottle en route as well, so should be able to do all right now. He's going to be able to maintain superior rune control, of course, over the Magnus. And so it should make Denny's life a little bit harder. And if we look at the two carries, you know, the Gyro and Medusa, pretty much on par at this moment in time as well. So, I mean, it all kind of begs the question, where's the biggest first blood capability? Is it going to be when we see one of these mid laners look for the rotation, look for the ganks? Or do you think we could possibly see some of these supports like the Ogre and the Venge leave the mid lane and try and go in on the Puck in the middle?
Good question. Nice way to prep. Where is that first blood going to come? And he asked his co-caster about it as well. So, just good points. Let's jump ahead. See? Nothing negative that time. We're good.
Good job.
Yay.
Good job, Toby.
Yay! Everyone's happy, happy, joy, joy.
In comparison to Dendy on the Magnus.
Yeah, now Funnick is actually going to take this Ancient stack as well and start working towards his Arcane Boots, or his Blink Dagger if he wants to go for Naked Blink. I imagine he'll pick up the Arcane Boots first. He's had a pretty rough early game. We're 14 minutes in. He is only level 6, and you compare that to the Faceless Void of Cheshire Cat, who's level 9 at the moment, and he's actually farming the Radiant Jungle. 5 heroes... Well...
He started 2 points and didn't finish either. Like, I actually thought he was going to give me an answer why Arcane Boots was a really good choice. And then he went into Cheshire Cat. I don't know if I missed the ending just then. But it wasn't too obvious again. Like, we're missing that conclusion line that we're talking about before.
4 heroes on the side of Na'Vi mid. As Funnick just tries to find those arcanes on the top lane. And
Dendy with a haste.
Oh, Cheshire Cat's rotating in around the back as well and has got a Chrono Sphere available. They may look to go on to this one. Cassie's going to bounce through. It's going to land on both Gold Black and Avost as well. And with the Death Ward coming in, it is going to get instantly cancelled by the Stone Gaze coming out from Avost, who managed to get it off perfectly. Dendy jumps himself in. He finds an RP on three heroes, but there isn't really any much follow-up. There isn't really too much follow-up damage. And it looks like PR are just going to be able to back themselves up, heal themselves up with the Witch Doctor Voodoo Restoration, and possibly continue this assault. Okay, not wanting to get the tower into deny range, and they just back themselves all the way up. Place down an Observer Ward as well. To give themselves...
That team fight, it's kind of a weird one to talk about almost. Like, it's a team fight where one hero dies. And you're like, eh. But there are a lot of potential actions that could have made things big. Exactly. But nothing happened. And the video didn't support the audio. Faceless Void's rotating around the back with a potential chrono. Like, we were looking at a different part of like the lane. We're looking further up in the lane at that point. So I'd have to look at the mini-map to fully understand what he's going for. So if I can't see it on the screen, you have to work harder as an audio descriptor. So you have to say, he's coming around the back, through the gap in the trees, looking for the puck, blah, 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 at the back line. Obviously not his own hero. Looking for these 3 heroes at the back line to control them. So again, it's that prep work that comes in before the fight happens. They're also talking about other stuff when the first jump came out from Shashlo. Like, he jumped up to the high ground, and all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, Navi's realizing this, let's get back behind our tower, and then Power Rangers are there. So as a caster, you've basically got 2 options I see in that fight. Actually 3 options I see in that fight. The first one is look at the Faceless Void initiation. The chrono is going to be one of your big critical parts to it. The other part is you play more of a tug of war kind of cast. So you say, they're back behind the tower. Now PR comes up to the tower. PR goes back behind the tower. That's when excitement should start to happen. They come back again, we fall back. So you basically play this balance war, tug of war kind of style. Or you focus on the uppy. That's the other one. So you look for either direct counter initiation or initiation in from Dendy. At this point I actually realized too that Tide has a Ravage. So you got multiple ultimates which you can bring attention to, which could change the fights around massively. Ravage is actually going to be one of those, but by this point of the game I doubt he's going to have a Blink Dagger. So he's got no way to jump himself in. So, actually, I say doubt it. It's 15 minutes in, he could have it. Yeah, but you've got different angles which you can take looking at this fight. And that one, it was kind of like they were waiting for one of the angles to present itself without any kind of prep work. It's just coming back to what we're talking about before, like prep for your fight. If things go differently, that's fine. because then you have surprise factor. So you can play the surprise road as opposed to the this is what we thought was going to happen. It doesn't make you wrong. It actually gives you more to work with. Yeah. As far as excitement levels.
Right, so when you're setting a narrative basically for this team fight and you want to choose to follow the Faceless Void and you're following him, he maybe has made this jump or hasn't quite happened, but it doesn't seem like the jump has really made much happen. And then all of a sudden that RP hits. That's what you're talking about, the surprise factor, right? Is that you're like, then you can make that kind of interjection. Oh, and look at that RP, and then you can make the camera go over.
You can then instantly, and he mentioned it, just like there was no follow-up directly after, so you go, oh, great RP by Dendy, but where's the follow-through?
Right.
And then you can turn it, like you go from positive to negative and you play that sway game of like feelings. It's like, oh my god, they did something great. Wait, where the hell is the rest of Navi?
That's where playing the praise game can definitely get you in trouble.
Yeah.
You see a lot of casters, if they want to say, oh, and what a beautiful RP by Dendy. By the time you've gotten out that phrase, it's already obvious.
Yeah.
The RP is hit, nothing's going to happen. So you have to be careful of making that kind of short interjection of this is what happened, then fall through with what.
Dendy stole Ravage. Dendy stole Ravage.
Yeah.
3 words get you what you're searching for, as opposed to a massively long phrase. And normally that kind of stuff sits in your memory. However, they shouldn't have been repeated at that point. I don't even remember who cast it. If it was me or if it was LD, I don't remember. But yeah, either way. Go back and watch some TI highlight clips. All right, so let's
he's a little bit
see.
ahead of the gyrocopter, but I don't think that necessarily dictates how the game's going to go, because gyrocopter still has a pretty large mid-game impact just with his abilities alone. He can offer a lot more magical damage than a Vost, so. The fact that Avost is a little bit ahead in terms of items, I don't think is too much of a deal breaker for PR at the moment. And they've still got Cheshire Cat as well, who's been able to find his Mask of Madness as well, and another 2,400 gold on top of that. So be interested to see what sort of item he's going to buy next. Are we going to see something like an Agnum Scepter Rush, or do we think we're going to see the more traditional going into a Maelstrom and then into more damage item builds? And well, Goldblatt's going to get caught out. He is going to be able to throw out the Fire Blast, and there isn't going to be any kind of follow-up.
A question that gets no answer because he blocks it. I want to see if the co-caster is actually able to pick it up. Wakey Pixel, the co-caster.
For the time being,
that's Wakey talking.
OD is
okay. So we'll see if OD.
The Wave of Terror is going to hit as well, so that's going to be a little bit of minus armor for Cheshire Cat. He might be in a bit of trouble. There is going to be a cast coming out from J4, but of course, it's only going to prop the Lincoln. It's not going to stop Havost any.
This would explain a lot then, because your play-by-play person is not doing the camera work. That entire time he was talking about what J4 was doing with the paralyzing cask, while the camera was trying to make sure that the damage that her Vorce was pumping out was always in shot. Now, if whenever you cast, whenever we cast, the play-by-play guy controls the camera.
Right.
Even when like Wepas and Scriff do camera work, they have the play-by-play guy's commentary in their ear, so they can hear what the play-by-play guy's talking about and can follow what he's looking at, but in a more smoother fashion.
And that's the only thing they focus on. They don't focus on trying to get any sort of commentary of their own, so it's hard for the co-caster to perform that role.
Yeah.
Well, he's trying to think of what to say.
And the co-caster should never be limited like this. Hey.
Let's talk about this real quick, because I think this is a pretty interesting point. The reason that you don't really like to have dedicated cameramen, like you're open to it. You've said that I'm open you like to it, Scriff.
Yes. As long as I can still move my own camera, I'm fine with having someone who is dedicated to make the viewing experience smoother. As long as they listen to what's being said, and then they can show what we want to also show at specific times.
Can you explain what you think is missing when you have a dedicated cameraman who maybe is bad at it? What do you feel is missing when you aren't able to control the camera? It's about narrative, right?
Yeah, it's the storyline. It's the storyline more than anything else. It's like you're providing all the lyrics, the music, and everything else to a movie, but someone else is choosing what's being displayed on the screen. Now, if you can get synergy between the two of them, then it's fantastic.
It's perfect.
Yeah, but if you can't, it could be a catastrophe. So and as a commentator, like, people will blame you. They won't blame a cameraman. They say, oh, well, actually, not unless there's a lot of hoo-ha that there's actually a cameraman being used. Like, if there's that, then you're fine. If not, a random Joe Blow guy that just tunes in is going, oh, it's not a cameraman, it's just this play-by-play guy. But as a play-by-play person as well, the narrative, when you sync the two of them, like when you do play-by-play and you do camera work, what you look at, what you're describing, is always going to be on the screen. Because that's just obviously what's going to happen. So you're never saying something that's missing. And then it's your co-caster's job of highlighting something which you probably should be looking at if you're not actually talking about it.
Right.
And your co-caster gets that cue because you're not talking about it, so he says, oh, obviously he's not looking at it. Without even looking at my screen, you can work that one out. So you say, oh, there's action on bottom lane, like Nahas did earlier tonight. It's like, down on bottom lane, and instantly healing will bring his camera down.
Right.
You get that train of thought. It's again like this whole, you understand what what the observer is doing, what the person looking at it is doing, and then you can relate and you can follow. So everything stays very structured. Yeah, but in this case, like, maybe we're wrong, but judging by who was on what side, and I'm assuming that the camera work was on the left because he's up against a wall, so there wouldn't be space for hardware like that, unless everything is just on the other side of the table. Yeah, I would probably say that's a problem. Let's just actually watch this fight again, and listen to what the caster actually says.
Another 2,400 gold on top of that, so be interested to see what sort of item
what
he's going to buy
about
next. Are we going to see something like an Agnum Scepter Rush, or do you think we're going to see the more traditional go?
See, even at that point, why are we talking about an Agnum Scepter Rush? Who is this on? We just clicked on Havorst and we clicked on Dendi. Like, you're distorting the storyline here.
Going into a Maelstrom and then into more damage item builds, and well, Goldblack's going to get caught out. He is going to be able to throw out the
so he was obviously talking about Cheshire Cat.
There's going to be any kind of follow-up for the time being, although Havost is closing in on this one. The Wave of Terror is going to hit as well, so that's going to be a little bit of minus armor for Cheshire Cat. He might be in a bit of trouble. There is going to be a cast coming out from J4, but of course it's only going to prop the Lincoln. It's not going to stop Havost anytime soon, and he's going to be able to finish off the kill on.
Okay, so he did still talk about it.
There's going to be a Ravage coming in from Flood, catching on two heroes, followed by the RP as well. Nice blinding light coming out from Seneko, but it isn't going to be enough. The puck's already fallen. Dirty Ra, I think he's going to go down as well, and indeed he is.
By the way, everyone, his name is Sun Ra. I'm sorry. It's the
Son of Ra, but
Son of Ra, and he's happy to be called Sun Ra.
But can you call him that?
Yes,
when his name shows up on screen as Ditya Ra. When you can't be like Son of Ra. The people who are tuning in aren't going to be, who are new, are going to be like, who are you talking about? Do you now
pronounce like Havost?
Well, you know, that's
when his name is clearly Xbox.
That's a bit different.
Why is it a big difference? No, you're doing it. You're saying it from the. You're taking it from the same perspective of, if you have a casual person tuning in, how do they relate the name you say to the person that's there?
That's slightly different. That's a pronunciation issue. This is you translating Ditya into son of
Ra.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a full translation.
It's a difference.
Okay.
But okay, so I think
I will concede point.
I didn't actually notice what you were talking about at first. But okay, but this is something that happens to a lot of casters. I think he might actually be controlling the camera, but I think he got delayed in action. Right? He was still talking about the cast that hit the Medusa while he was still following.
So you
I think he got delayed up in the action.
It's more brain lag then.
Yeah,
but I sort of understand then. Maybe we can ask him. Are we going to actually Skype him? So we can ask him after, because I think we're actually at the end of the point of going through this one, because I really want to see who actually does the camera work here. Because it's the fact that that you've got the play-by-play guy talking about something which isn't even on the screen. Which for me flags that something is wrong. Unless that's just going through his mind.
But when this does happen, whether it is him or whether it's not, when this does happen, what suggestions do you have? When you feel like you can't keep up with a fight,
call him up.
How do you feel the best way is to solve that?
Sorry, ask again.
When you feel like you're lagging behind in a fight, do you cut yourself short straight up and just call what's happening right there? You're trying to finish up a point, but you can't quite get there. You cut yourself off and go, oh, and look at that, he dies. Do you?
It's one of those things where I used to cheat a lot. Because when I did audio casting, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
You could say whatever the hell you wanted to, unless people were perfectly syncing up the replays to your audio, which is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
No one would ever be the wiser. It's difficult because like it's sacking part of the fight if you do skip. Like if you like, oh my brain fart. Shit. Like that can happen. Like that exact feeling can happen, and it's really bad when it does. And there's very few ways to save yourself when you're that far down a hole. Like the best thing you can do is just again try and find the focus which you tried to set up before the fight, what you feel is important. In this case, Horst was the important guy hunting a kill, so you could just follow that in. But yeah, like the Wave of Terror comment was like a second behind the Wave of Terror actually being thrown. And it's just
everything piled up.
Yeah, everything starts to pile up and then like, I'm behind this, I still haven't said that, I still haven't said this, still haven't said that. And that's when you go back to what we kind of discussed before, which was priorities. Right. What's actually important to say?
Is it important that the cask hit the Lincoln Sphere and didn't actually do any stun to Horst? Not really. When Horst is actually going to be able to get a kill.
Yeah.
Horst gets the kill.
Yeah. Yeah. Horst goes undeterred through
Sorry, I'm saying the Horst.
Horst.
I'm doing that thing that you hate.
Or should you call him Tail?
Yeah. Well, if we really want to get fussy about it, do we call him Tail? Because that's what Horst is in Russian.
No.
Or Ukrainian.
Ukrainian. Pronunciation, yes. Translation, no.
That was the joke.
That's the simple thing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Durka, for making my point.
Fantastic.
Like
all right. So do we have him?
Yeah. If you can call him up, he says he's ready.
Did you get the call on? I have Skype turned on. Hello?
I'm here, yes. Hello.
There we go. Beautiful.
Hello.
And it's nice to actually have somebody... Oh, yeah, sorry, my ears. It's nice to have someone with a microphone that's crisp and clear. Who's a commentator calling in. That very rarely happens. Yeah.
Anyway, man, so what did you think of the critique? Did you take anything away from it? Do you have any questions?
Oh, absolutely. No, I think all the points that you made were pretty bang on. Wakey was kind of slating me for sending in that VOD because we literally did it yesterday when you said that you needed one. So it was kind of rushed, as you could maybe tell for a bit of it.
Who was controlling the camera?
Yeah, I need to know who was controlling the camera.
It was me.
Okay.
It was me.
So you got caught up in action, right?
Pretty much. Basically, the way that we kind of, which is actually something I was going to ask you guys about, we're both at a level of Dota. We're both basically around the 3.5k MMR range, you see. So obviously, you're kind of going to have this issue where with a lot of big caster duos, you're going to have a play-by-play and an analyst who's at a lot of a higher level. You see, we don't have that. So normally in our casting style, we kind of go for the fact that we're constantly bouncing off each other and doing play-by-play, but also, you know, offering little tidbits of information because we don't have the capability of doing anything at a better level. So it's kind of the question of whether, do you think we need to raise our MMR to be respectable casters, or do we need to bring in someone who is at, say, a 5k plus level and do different kind of work to kind of get further in the scene?
You know what I want to say. You know what I want to say.
I really like this question because it comes to a fundamental of Dota's very based on the traditional play-by-play analyst, very locked in. Can you do just a regular sort of Joe Blow cast in a way? You don't have an expert with you. How do you make that work, Toby?
You would make that work by actually sharing play-by-play in the same team fights.
Okay.
You actually have a bit of an advantage over a lot of other people, the fact that your co-caster is sitting next to you. And what you're capable of doing is bouncing off each other a lot more than you already are. Like, when you say you're bouncing off each other, all I'm still hearing is conversation, then another conversation. You ask questions of each other, and that's nice, but you're sitting next to each other. I assume you guys have known each other for a while, considering you're starting up and you actually have...
Yeah, we've known each other for about 14 years.
Yeah. So you're literally living in like a male marriage right now, considering your names are so close together. So you should know each other a lot better, where you can just like you can bounce off each other a lot more than you already are. Like, don't always have to ask like open-ended questions. You have like open-ended sentences in a way, which then spark someone else to then take your thought and expand it into something else. Then you just keep doing the same with his thoughts and back and forward. If you really want to try and focus more on the entertainment value, then think about ways you can actually entertain people to start with. And
okay, yeah.
And one of them, sorry, that sounds harsher than it was meant to be. And try and like just attempt to do this when you're not streaming. Like, just do some dry runs, and try and do team fights where one of you talks, and another one talks, and another one talks, and another one talks. So just like almost like a drill. You have to change who's talking primarily at least 3 times during one team fight.
Okay.
So attempt to do something like that, and you'll find yourself building a trust and synergy where you'll actually get to a point where you can cast a little bit more like the Koreans cast, where like it doesn't matter if they know anything about the casting. It's pure entertainment because they just keep the energy level really, really good. Don't go full throttle. Never go full throttle because that's what the Koreans do.
The bear, the bear, the bear!
Yeah, never do that because it doesn't work for an English audience. They will just get.
It works if you don't understand what they're saying.
It's true, it does, because then you just go, oh shit, I'm shitting my pants. Take a second. We're all on drugs. Don't do drugs, kids. Yeah, yes, stay in school, don't do drugs. But don't go to university all the time. Follow your career. Speaking as a guy who dropped out.
Second. Did that too? We're dropouts, buddy.
Yeah! That's what it's all about.
Oh, Dirk is a dropout too.
We're gonna drop
We're
out?
Dropout Studios.
See, Zoe actually did it the proper way. Zoe did it the proper way. She went through a proper internship, apprenticeship, or whatever the hell it is here in Germany.
So play to your strengths.
Yeah, but play to your strengths. Try and find ways where it doesn't matter about, like we were talking about this before, like the different types of casts. Like Gorgon brought this one up, and the type of cast you should be looking for is more the entertainment, but serious entertainment. So don't go like Cyclops Lysander version, because I don't think that's going to work with you guys, because you don't have an outrageous accent that everyone just smiles at. Unfortunately, the English accent is one of the most poorly received accents.
Not to Americans.
Not to Americans?
Okay. No, not to Americans. We love the English accent. So play to the American.
Really?
Play to the American.
Literally everyone does. No, there's types of English accents.
Well, I think you guys have the English accent that works very well. And if you're able to make team fights sound very smooth by being able to bounce back and forth, and you call the RP, and as the RP wraps up, he calls the next bit of action that's coming in. You can make that sound very nice back and forth. I think, especially
that's one thing that no casting combo really works on, because there are no real casting combos. No one actually sees as an important kind of thing.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not hearing it. Let's try. Test. Put it to your face.
Into it.
Yeah. Oh wow. Effort, Zoe, required. Yes. Talk into the microphone, Zoe.
I am. Test.
I can hear.
Test. Oh, Cap can hear me. Good to know.
Yeah. Good. Go. For some reason, I can't hear him in my ears.
So one of the things which is the most important if you're actually lacking the knowledge is to not overextend your own abilities. Like, if you know what you know, that's cool, but if you then actually try to make some calls or anything, that's just the worst. Like, rather stick to what you really know.
Yeah.
Other than starting something where you only like possess half knowledge of some sort, because that's just gonna make you look bad, and then people are actually complaining about it.
Yeah, agreed.
If you don't do that, then that's perfect. No one will have a problem with you not actually knowing just as much, and you can just work on that then.
So probably be careful with asking questions to your co-caster.
Yeah.
That's because the worst thing you could probably do at that point
you
is
set
get
him
him
up to
caught
fail.
in a situation where you're just like, he either answers completely wrong out of his ass, he's just like, oh, I think this, but the audience knows different.
Yeah.
Or he's just like, I don't know. In which case, you are very obviously putting your biggest weakness out there to everyone.
I've had pro players do that to me. I've had pro players ask me mechanic questions, and it's like, no. That's not how this is working, man. I'm not accepting this question. Let's move on, please.
That's where the instant response, that's what I have you for, buddy.
Yes. Oh, that is such a great get out of jail free card. So good. Yeah. Yeah, but try and play more to your strengths. Try and play for the fact that you're actually like together in a room, and please fix your background.
Okay, yeah. We were quite limited for space. It is a very, very tight space we do it in.
Yeah, you're in basically like a bedroom, right?
Pretty much, yeah. It is the bedroom, yeah.
Yeah. Did you also did you also get like soundproofing?
No, not at all. We can't even shut the door. I don't know what's wrong with the door hinge, but we can't even shut it.
Do you get complaints from your neighbors? Because I'm talking right now. If you are going to consistently try and work on your play-by-play, you will have police being called on you.
We're on the side of the house that is not attached, so we're pretty cool to be quite noisy.
Oh, you're actually in a house area.
Yeah, well, this is it's a house place. Yes.
Okay.
Not like a flat or something. There's no one below us, no one above us, no one to the side of us.
Well, perfect. That's a lot better then. I still had the police called on me in those situations.
Yeah, that's not happened yet, fortunately.
Toby. All right, man. You got any other questions?
Actually, yeah, just kind of a general one about casting for long periods of time. I mean, me and Wakey do this UK gig every Sunday, and it's between 6 hours and 7 hours long, and we get really, really drained by the end of it. And I'm sure, Toby, obviously with your years of experience, you've had periods where you've been forced to cast for very long periods of time. What do you do to keep yourself going when you get to, the fifth game of the day and you feel like you've said everything that there's to be said about Dota? I mean, what do you do to keep driving yourself?
Happy story time. No,
okay.
It's as we were discussing before with Gorgon. It's one of those things where you just try and find whatever keeps you entertained and use it to entertain your viewers.
Yeah.
So, I could use an example of when I used to work in a fish and chip shop. Good classic days. And it was the worst job ever. Like horrendous pay, stupid hours, but I still was able to smile all the way through it because somehow I managed to actually see the positive side of scratching dry grease off the back of fryers.
Mm-hmm.
Takes a level of ability to entertain yourself to do such a thing and to really change your perspective of life, universe, and everything. But yeah, just try and find your happy place and push yourself through if you're feeling tired. It gets easier to do longer and longer hours.
Eventually, you'll be able to cast in your sleep, like Toby.
Eventually, yes. Unfortunately, now though, you will hit an age, just like a professional gamer, you drop off your game, where you can't keep going and going and going and going. So for now, though, you're in your youth. Enjoy your time.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry, I can't keep up with the rest of you. I cannot keep up with the rest of you. This bastard right here.
You're not 40 yet, Toby.
Casts like a 20-hour day at ESL, and it's like, let's go party! I'm just like, no. Oh my god.
That's the only socializing I get, man. It's like I'm going to take advantage of it.
I'm going to go back to the hotel room and pass out.
Old man Toby over there. I don't want to go to no party.
I don't sometimes.
The kids listen to their music too loud. So yeah,
it's not really too loud. It's just really bad music. I'm very selective.
All right, man. Anything else?
Yeah, actually, just one more, even more general question about the whole kind of Dota 2 casting scene. Obviously, we've got a very few prominent Dota 2 casting studios. Do you think if we wanted to seriously advance ourselves as casters, we're best to improve our game and then look to be taken under the wing of a current studio? Or do you think there's still room with the constant amount and increase of tournaments for another big studio to ever become apparent in the scene?
I think there's always space for more studios. Everyone's talking about the oversaturation of Dota right now. And especially studios that don't sign exclusive contracts, because a lot of studios get tied in to certain broadcasts, because it's what pays the bills. A lot of the deals are really, really good to take, because it'll give you a stable financial base, and loyalty is rewarded. But there's a lot of other gigs out there which you can get, because people are already tied to other contracts or tied to other competitions, so they literally cannot do it. And that's kind of like your foot in the door if you can get involved in that kind of stuff. That's where like High Ground TV kind of found their way in, even though they were still able to do it with their Twitch partnership. So you got different avenues here and there. The other bright side is currently like it's not massively frowned upon because no major studio has really done it yet. But everything that's in Dota TV is available to cast for anybody.
Of course.
This is the guidelines of Valve. So if you want to, you could provide an unofficial stream for every single tournament. I'm not. We're not saying that. I'm not suggesting you do.
Ones. We could not do that on Twitch because that would get taken down, surely.
Toad on Daily Motion.
People hate us enough already. Toby, please.
No, but,
I like it.
But
good advice.
It's bad because you piss off the studios who are already doing the stuff.
Right.
But you can do things like what Shiva was doing. Like Shiva wanted to cast Starladder, and she asked, they gave her permission, and she could do it. Because most studios, most organizers won't care as long as you give them their viewer numbers. You do it on the platform that's actually partnered with the tournament, and you don't really leech too many of their viewers. Like, if you took 300 or 400 here or there, then they're not going to care. If you start taking thousands, and, like, you're the only game that's featured on Dota 2 Lounge, then yeah, they'll probably have an issue with you. But until that point, you can still, like, try and, like, break into the scene in that kind of way.
Yeah.
I would say that you're either going to have to work very hard for a very long time or have to do something entirely different from the other studios, right? So one thing would be covering all Southeast Asian and China games and all those kind of tournaments that go on that maybe some of the Western studios don't, like, especially Southeast Asia. There's some Southeast Asia tournaments that don't get picked up by the big studios.
Unfortunately, though, for a lot of those tournaments, you're not going to get much exposure.
Yeah.
No, most of it is actually for self-development. Like I always used to say, you should try and work with your national stuff first, then go to your regional stuff, and then go to your international stuff. But at this point, you can easily just jump to the international stuff anyway. But you just build up your viewer base over time, and you build up loyalty with your own viewers because they like what you do. And then you try and find ways where you can modify what you do, where you keep your current viewers, but you also attract new ones.
Okay.
All right, man.
Well,
I hope
thank you very
enjoyed it.
much. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch our cast. And your points, they've been noted. Wakey was going away at the keyboard, noting all down everything you've said. And we'll certainly look over it. And
I suggest you actually watch the other ones from tonight, like the ones we do with Helium and Gorgon as well.
I caught a bit of
because a lot of those points like translate across every cast.
Oh yeah, especially that first one. Toby went ham on it.
Holy crap! Yeah, we did.
Toby went.
And this one again, I think we're taking up most of our 24-hour stream talking about commentary.
It's good.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
But we got what we wanted out of it. We're gonna close it out here, though.
Yes.
So to both Wakey as well as OD,
that visual sign of like
Gorgon. Thank you to them, and hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll be doing another one probably later in the morning.
Are we? Oh, that's right. We still have Mr. Sir Action
Just cut
Slacks.
Toby off. It's fine. It's fine.
What?
We're going outro now, Toby.
Okay, bye.